In a world where betrayal is currency and love is little more than a fragile illusion, nothing prepares you for the moment, everything detonates at once. The quiet cracks that once hid beneath stolen glances and dangerous secrets suddenly erupt into a devastating truth that no one can outrun. At the center of this storm stands Adam Newman, a man already haunted by loss, now pushed beyond the limits of reason as the one thing he thought could save him turns into his ultimate undoing. The revelation that Sally Spectre is carrying a child should have rewritten fate, but instead it ignites a psychological war fueled by jealousy, humiliation, and a rage so intense it threatens to consume everything in its path. And at the center of this emotional explosion stands Billy Abbott, not just a rival, but the living proof that Adam has once again been replaced, erased, and defeated. What follows is not a simple story of heartbreak, but a descent into obsession, where every choice becomes more dangerous, every silence more explosive, and every character is forced into a corner with no escape. In the unforgiving universe of The Young and the Restless, this is the kind of truth that doesn't just destroy relationships, it reshapes destinies in the most brutal, irreversible way imaginable. The moment the truth settled into place, something inside Adam Newman did not simply break, it fractured into something unrecognizable. The revelation that Sally Spectre was carrying a child should have been a moment of fragile hope, a chance at redemption in a life that had long been defined by loss and ruin. Instead, it became a grotesque distortion of that hope when the truth emerged with merciless clarity. The child was not his. It belonged to Billy Abbott. At first, Adam did not react in the way anyone might expect. There was no immediate excursion, no outward display of rage. What came instead was far more dangerous, a stillness so complete it bordered on lifelessness. His mind, however, was anything but still. It spiraled inward, replaying every moment he had shared with Sally, every glance, every hesitation, every subtle shift in her behavior that he had once dismissed as insignificant. Now, those fragments rearranged themselves into a cruel mosaic of deception. The realization was not just that he had been betrayed, but that he had been blind, willingly or not, to the signs that his world was already collapsing long before he noticed the cracks. Beneath that stillness, a storm gathered. Adam had spent years fighting against the version of himself that others believed him to be a man incapable of love, destined to destroy everything he touched. Sally had been different. With her, he had allowed himself to believe in something fragile, something dangerously close to peace. And now that belief had turned into a weapon aimed directly at him. The pain was not clean or simple, it was layered with humiliation, with the unbearable weight of knowing that once again he had lost to someone who embodied everything he was not. Billy, in Adam's mind, became more than a rival. He became a symbol of ease, of acceptance, of a life Adam could never access no matter how hard he tried to reshape himself. The child was not just a child, it was proof, tangible and undeniable, that Sally had chosen a future that excluded Adam entirely. That truth dug deeper than any betrayal, because it suggested that Adam had never truly been an option, only a temporary detour. Meanwhile, Sally found herself trapped in a reality she could no longer control. What had once seemed like a series of manageable mistakes now converged into a single, inescapable consequence. Her motivations, once rooted in survival and the pursuit of stability, now felt hollow under the weight of what she had caused. She had not intended to create destruction on this scale, yet intention offered no protection against the fallout. The life growing inside her should have been a source of clarity, but instead it amplified every fear she had buried, fear of being judged, of being abandoned, of being forced to confront the version of herself she had tried to leave behind. The absence of control gnawed at her. She could feel the narrative slipping away, no longer something she could shape or manipulate. Every choice now carried irreversible consequences, and the illusion that she could navigate between Adam and Billy without causing irreparable harm had been shattered. What remained was a stark realization. No matter what she did next, someone would be destroyed, and she would have to live with that destruction. Billy, for his part, was far from the stable figure Adam imagined him to be. The knowledge that he was about to become a father under such circumstances did not bring him peace. Instead, it forced him into a confrontation with his own inadequacies. He had spent years oscillating between self-destruction and attempts at redemption, never fully committing to either. Now, the stakes had changed. The child represented responsibility, permanence, a demand for stability that Billy was not certain he could provide. His connection to Sally was complicated, built on moments of vulnerability rather than a solid foundation. The pregnancy turned those moments into something far heavier than either of them had anticipated. Billy could sense the storm brewing in Adam, and while part of him wanted to stand his ground, another part recognized the danger of underestimating a man who had nothing left to lose. The situation forced Billy into a position he had long avoided the need to choose, to commit, to accept the consequences of his actions without retreat. As the tension between them escalated, Adam's internal conflict reached a breaking point. The version of himself he had tried to build, controlled, measured, striving for something better, began to erode under the pressure of his pain. The darker instincts he had suppressed resurfaced with alarming clarity. They offered a kind of relief, a way to channel the chaos inside him into something tangible, something he could act upon rather than simply endure. Yet even as those instincts took hold, another part of him resisted. It was weaker, quieter, but it refused to disappear completely. It reminded him of what he had wanted, of the possibility that had once seemed within reach. That internal battle became almost unbearable, a constant oscillation between destruction and restraint. Each passing moment pushed him closer to a decision he could not undo. The world around them seemed to contract, narrowing until there was no space left for avoidance or denial. Every encounter, every glance, every unspoken acknowledgement of the truth intensified the pressure. The lines between victim and perpetrator blurred, leaving each of them entangled in a web of consequences they could not escape. Adam began to make calculated moves, not in the open but in the shadows where he felt most at home. His actions were not impulsive, they were deliberate, driven by a need to reclaim some sense of control. Whether that control came through confrontation, manipulation, or something far more destructive became increasingly unclear even to him. What mattered was the shift, the moment when he stopped trying to preserve what was lost and started focusing on what could still be taken. Sally, sensing that shift, felt the ground beneath her give way. The future she had imagined was dissolving, replaced by something far more dangerous. She was no longer navigating between two men. She was standing at the center of a conflict that threatened to consume all of them. Her instincts urged her to protect herself, to secure a path forward no matter the cost, yet the weight of her choices made that path harder to see with each passing moment. Billy, caught between responsibility and fear, found himself facing a version of reality he could no longer escape. The easy answers were gone, replaced by decisions that demanded sacrifice. He could feel the pressure closing in, forcing him to confront not only Adam but also the parts of himself he had long avoided. What began as a revelation had transformed into something far more volatile, a chain reaction of emotions, motivations, and choices that fed into one another, building toward an inevitable collision. There was no clean resolution waiting at the end, no simple way to untangle the damage that had been done, only the certainty that whatever came next would leave a mark none of them could erase. And at the center of it all, Adam stood on the edge of a decision that would define everything that followed. His pain no longer contained but sharpened into something dangerous, something unstoppable, something that threatened to turn a moment of heartbreak into a force capable of destroying every fragile connection that remained in the world of the young and the restless. No longer contained but sharpened into something dangerous, something unstoppable, something that threatened to turn a moment of heartbreak into a force